Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching Business Incorporated, coming to you live from Channels Television headquarters in Lagos. President Barack Obama gathered leaders from Southeast Asia to strengthen trade ties and form a common stance on the South China Sea. After discussing trade and economic issues with the 10 ASEAN states, U.S. officials hoped to arrive at a common position on the South China Sea, and where China and several ASEAN states have conflicting claims.
President Barack Obama gathered leaders from Southeast Asia to strengthen trade ties and form a common stance on the South China Sea in a summit in the White House. Obama, who leaves office next year, has championed a foreign policy pivot to Asia during his presidency and is determined to present the United States as a Pacific Tower. His meeting with leaders from the Association of Southeast Asian Nations was aimed at cementing that legacy.
This reflects my personal commitment and the national commitment of the United States to a strong and enduring partnership with your 10 nations individually and to Southeast Asia as one region, as one community.
The meeting, at the same location where Obama once hosted Chinese President Xi Jinping, was designed to demonstrate Washington's role as a counterweight to Beijing and as an eager trading partner with ASEAN members. White House National Security Advisor Susan Rice told reporters U.S. companies had more than doubled investment in the region since 2008. The leaders focused on economic issues, including discussion of the Trans-Pacific Partnership Deal, which includes 4 ASEAN members: Vietnam, Singapore, Brunei, and Malaysia. Others are interested in joining, and the White House wants to make sure the pact takes effect. The leaders also discussed maritime issues, particularly the South China Sea, where China and several Southeast Asian states have conflicting and overlapping claims. White House officials have said Obama would deliver a tough message to China that disputes over the South China Sea must be resolved peacefully and not by bullying.
Here at this summit, we can advance our shared vision of a regional order where international rules and norms, including freedom of navigation, are upheld and where disputes are resolved through peaceful legal means.
The challenge may be to get all members to agree on a strong statement on the issue. Officials say China has put pressure on countries such as Cambodia and Laos not to sign on. China's role in the region hung over the meeting. Rice said she expected China would support new international sanctions on North Korea for its recent rocket launches. Advocacy group Human Rights Watch urged the Obama administration to object to human rights violations in countries such as Cambodia and Thailand during the summit. The president touched on the issue without specifics during his remarks.
And here at the summit, we can reaffirm that strong, prosperous, and inclusive societies require good governance, rule of law, accountable institutions, vibrant civil societies, and upholding human rights.
Combating climate change and cooperating on counterterrorism and the fight against Islamic State militants were also on the agenda.
And Iran's OPEC envoy is reported as saying that it is illogical for it to join the oil output freeze agreed by a Russian and Saudi Arabian-led group on Tuesday. Mehdi Asali, quoted in the Iranian newspaper, said that Iran will continue to increase oil production until it reaches pre-sanction levels. Venezuela's oil minister is due to hold talks in Tehran to broker a deal with Iran. And we're looking at that Iran is not just restarting its oil exports after sanctions were lifted. The move by the 4 countries, including Venezuela and Qatar, is the first of its kind in 15 years. Now let's throw more light into the oil freeze controversy. We've been joined on the program by the chairman and chief executive of International Energy, Dr. Diron Faoube. Good afternoon, Dr. Faoube.
Good afternoon.
Welcome to the program. Now, what do you think about the disagreement among OPEC countries on freezing output in the short term?
Well, we should expect the reaction of Iran to be what they are saying, that they are not ready to cut back their production or to freeze production. We should remember that Iran is just coming to the international market after a long layoff. Now, it was the Russia and Saudi Arabia and of course United States that have increased the glut in the oil market by continuous production. For example, Saudi Arabia ordinarily should not be producing more than about 8.5 million barrels per day. Currently, Saudi Arabia is producing over 10 million barrels per day. Russia has been pumping oil into the market because it needs the foreign exchange to be able to fulfill some of its development programs. So when you say you are freezing production, it will mean that you will maintain existing production level, not to cut back production. If OPEC wants to do justice in terms of removing the glut in the market, they have to cut back production. For example, in November 2014, when OPEC met to decide on not cutting back production, the production level was 30 million barrels per day. Today, the production level of OPEC member countries is running between 32.3 and 33 million barrels per day, which in effect means that OPEC has contributed substantially to the glut in the oil market. And Saudi Arabia, among other OPEC countries, is the major contributor to the oil glut. Of course, Nigeria is producing something in the order of about 2.3 million barrels per day. If OPEC will go back to reduce production, Nigeria may have to cut back production by a little 100 barrels per day. But what Nigeria is doing now is to meet the revenue requirement that has come about because of the price of oil has gone down. That is what most countries are doing. Don't forget about the issue of trying to maintain the share of each member country. So these are the issues that are playing out. So if OPEC wants to actually ensure that the oil glut is substantially reduced, there must be production cutback, which will mean that we go back to the area of setting production quota, and there must be discipline on the part of member countries to be able to adhere to the level of production that member countries will agree. Now, Iran is a totally different kettle of fish because it will be a hard ball for Iran to be brought to the table to agree, because having been off the market for a long time, they will want to produce as much as they can in order to meet some of their financial revenue requirements. And that is will have to be hard bargaining to bring Iran to the table to agree to at least a reasonable level of production that will not stabilize the market. Because the big objective of OPEC now is to stabilize the market.
Okay.
But stabilize the market means that there has to be a cutback in production.
Dr. Fawebe, I may have to cut in there. I just want to ask you that do you think that there is the need to look at the bigger picture here? Because if yes, OPEC is saying that there is a need for the members to allow a freeze for the short term in order to stabilize the market and allow the prices to rise, do you think that is logical for Iran and other members of the group to consider?
Maybe that is a step in the right direction, or a step stage one. Stage two will be that, because as I said, if you are freezing production, it means you will have to maintain the existing level of production, which will mean that the current level of production actually cannot remove the glut in the market. If you want to remove the glut, you have to prop up price of oil. You have to cut back production. Now you have to tinker with the policy of trying to maintain your share of the market. Now, if that is still the policy, Russia and Saudi Arabia maintaining their current level of production, Saudi Arabia cannot continue to produce at over 10 million barrels per day if you want to remove the glut. And freezing the production will mean that you will keep that level of production. Ditto for Russia. So where we can say that the freeze is one step in the direction of trying to stabilize the market. It's necessary but not sufficient. And that is the point we have to understand. There is no way we are going to reduce, we are going to prop up price through production level that will not involve having to cut back production. And the price of the level of production will have to go down by at least about 2 million, if not 3 million barrels per day before you can see appreciable level of increase in the price. But of course, how do we keep rein on that of United States with the shale gas?
Okay, Dr. Fawibe, I want to ask you this last question. I know you have a lot to tell us in a very short time. The impact on Nigeria, because we are also looking forward to seeing prices rise.
Yes, the impact on Nigeria basically is that the price must go up. Don't forget that Nigeria is not a substantial producer to shake the market in the sense that if, for example, the Minister for Petroleum Resources was saying a few days ago that Nigeria is hoping to be able to produce 2.5 million barrels per day this year. Then when you compare 2 million barrels per day to that of 2.3 that we are currently doing, that's just about 200 or 250,000 barrels per day increase. So Nigeria's production level cannot shake the market. And what, like I said, the increase in the production of Nigeria today is being driven by the fact that we need the revenue. Even though the price is down, Nigeria has to continue to produce, at least to have some revenue that we'll be able to use to meet our financial foreign exchange needs.
All right, so thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, Dr. Fawibe. That'll be all we can take from him. Thank you so much for your insights. Dr. Fawibe is the chairman and CEO of International Energy. Still to come on the program, Nigeria's non-performing loans may rise to 10% of total loans of the banks. Details after the break.